Dear colleagues, dear friends, it's a great pleasure for me to be here and to present briefly my work while preparing our meeting to take place later in December. My name is Michalis Kantopodis, which is a Greek name. I live and work in the UK, and I am a chair in Global Childhood and Youth Studies at the School of Education, University of Leeds. I will be referring briefly to digital divides in the aftermath of COVID-19 today and to children and youth, but I want to do that giving a positive perspective, hopeful perspective. So the title of my presentation is Reimagining the Future from Below after COVID-19. This is me and my colleagues at the School of Education, and we work very closely with all the colleagues at the Center for Applied Education Research. Now, as we all know, COVID-19, the pandemic, has created a lot of risks for the whole generation of children and young people who grow up today. According to a recent report by UNICEF, they may even be called the generation COVID, in the sense that the whole future of this generation is at risk. There is a long-lasting impact, which unfortunately includes underfunded education and welfare systems around the world. I'm not talking only about one country today. Precarious livelihoods, poverty, increasing rates of unemployment, forced immigration and violence, and ever-increasing inequalities, unfortunately, related to gender, racial, cultural, religious, and all other aspects. At the same time, as for example, we have been exploring even before the pandemic in this book, Global Youth in Digital Trajectories, with colleagues from around the world. Global youth seem to make no difference between what is offline or off-screen and online or on-screen, and that was so even in like 5 years ago. Through the use of digital technologies, education, learning, global communication take place in virtual spaces. By virtual, I refer to the merging of the online and the offline in the classic way me and my generation would understand these terms. And it looks like pictures and audiovisual media are at the center of learning and communication, which is positive. That's all very positive, of course. So even before the pandemic, about 830 million children and young people from around the globe were online daily. And there is a constantly increasing number of about 5 billion mobile broadband subscriptions globally. These are very, very big numbers. We're aware of the divides in terms of access, as well as in terms of design and knowledge, how and what to do with digital media. There are many inequalities. At the same time, there are new opportunities for learning and inclusion, we believe, exactly in this frame. So this is what me and my colleagues are trying to explore. There are possibilities to develop new links, LINKS. I'm using that term to refer to learning in inclusive knowledge societies across disciplines and sectors. And this is across levels. It can refer to developing new links, literally speaking, in the neurons in the human brain, between the different parts of the brain. We're talking about links, synergies between humans and devices, and open access to knowledge. We're talking about links between people and links across diverse geographical settings. So how to do that? With many colleagues from around the world, we have been developing best practices in so-called maker spaces. That's a book that refers to this, even beginning with early years, and there is much work taking place on this front by many colleagues at the Center for Applied Education Research in Bradford. So here it is not only about using devices, but it's about developing and producing hardware and software at the same time. There is there are many projects that I've been involved in various countries in the so-called Global South as well. For example, in Brazil, with my colleague, Professor Fernanda Liberali from the University of São Paulo in Brazil. We have been developing partnerships between schools, universities, and communities so that we can redesign curricula from below and pay attention to the multiple forms of knowledge production and communication that young people and children have already been using outside of the school, and bringing these in the schools and then in the universities as well. Brazil has a very important tradition here. Already since 1990, indigenous people in the Amazon have been using the video to produce their own films about their everyday lives and present themselves in a different way than, for example, Hollywood movies would do. And many young people and children have been involved in these projects, taking place already since so many years. What is new now is that everybody from around the world can watch these movies online and give feedback to or communicate about same problems. So in this project, Hyperconnecting Schools from around the globe, we try to support and guide children and young people to communicate with each other about global issues like poverty, climate change, well-being and health, and bring up their own solutions to these problems in very participatory ways, developing new knowledge and eventually ways to dealing with problems that we adults may not have been thinking about. So this term, participatory research, is what I would like to conclude with in this brief presentation today. Paulo Freire, whom of course is also Brazilian, and Miles Horton from the US have been referring to this quite well-known quote: "We make the road by walking when we do not know how exactly to go forward and to go ahead," in one of their books. And they refer to taking that as a point of departure. I'm inviting you all to join us in making the road by walking, which can entail mapping and designing global youth futures from below in participatory, collective, decentered, and multi-voiced ways. And this is not only a possibility today with all digital media, it is a necessity. Thank you.